What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Landlord Chick podcast. So, in this episode, I'm actually covering a topic that I've received a lot of requests for over the past, probably honestly, year or so. But I haven't felt that I was in the place myself to be preaching on this. A lot of you that have been longtime listeners remember sort of the hectic hiatus I went through towards the end of last year in my professional life. And then, of course, if you're a newer listener, you're familiar with, I've been alluding to some family issues that have been going on that have diverted my attention and sort of maybe had a squirrel-like attention span. So having a podcast on productivity coming out of my mouth just didn't quite seem right. But now I feel I'm in a better position and I'm getting more acclimated into what makes me productive and keeps me on track. So I feel like I'm in a position now to actually have another episode on this. My early episode on this, which was like already probably 3 years ago, was honestly my second highest to listened episode. Oddly enough, my highest listened to episode was the one I did on surviving the winter blues as an entrepreneur, which I thought was crazy. So this is going to be like a revisit to my second most popular episode. However, I can assure you it's not just rebooting the old content or just reposting the old one. This is a brand new recording for productivity tips. What I've learned, secrets I've learned that maybe other people use, but they're not applicable to me. And just a general idea of ways that you can keep yourself productive as much as possible, because of course, the more we can get done in a day, the more successful we're going to be as real estate investors or as entrepreneurs in general. So I think to start out this episode, I want to go through what might be a little bit of some no-brainers, possibly things a lot of you have heard, but there's maybe some of you that have not heard this. So if you haven't heard these things, these should really be like breakthrough ideas for you. And this is what we're going to build the foundation of our productivity on. So the first thing I want to say is that we should always be looking at what is the best and highest use of our time. So what that means is not necessarily packing as much into the day as possible. I'm not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is that during the hours that you have dedicated to your projects, to your professional projects, your personal projects, those hours that you have dedicated to that, be sure you're using your time to the best and highest value that you possibly can. Now, how you implement this could take many forms. For some people, it simply means that for that time, you don't look at your phone at all. You turn it on Do Not Disturb. You turn it face down. So basically, you're only going to find out if the world's on fire because someone's going to call you. But other than that, you're not going to get any notifications from your phone. Other people like me, we incorporate that, but then we also use something called the Pomodoro method, which is, if you don't know what it is, briefly, it's a system of working through a project where you take 25 minutes, pure focus on the project. You have like a 3 to 4 minute break. You do the 25 minutes again, and you repeat that 3 to 4 times. Then you take a very large 30-minute break. That is one of the ways that I can ensure that I use the time blocks that I have to my best and highest use, because I'm not draining my brain too much. I'm giving it the breaks that it needs. And I'm telling myself, okay, 25 minutes, laser-like focus on this. So that's how I incorporate the best and highest use of my time. Other things would be not multitasking. Multitasking is a myth of productivity. There's very few things you can actually be productive at while you're multitasking. So definitely don't think just because you're multitasking, you're being productive. That's likely not going to be the best and highest use of your time. The other thing I want to say is that always plan proactively. Don't plan reactively. Now, this was a hard concept for me to grasp at first, not necessarily how to do it, but just what they meant. And it turns out I was already sort of proactively planning when I heard this term. I just didn't know that I was. So reactive planning is when you sit down and make a schedule. And when you're done writing your schedule, what you have on there is your doctor's appointment. Maybe you're getting your hair cut for the day. You got to pick up your kids at 2:30. Then you got to take one of your kids to soccer at 5. The schedule you've just created for yourself is reactive because those things are already going to happen regardless of whether you write them down on a piece of paper or not. So really, you haven't done too much for yourself by creating that reactive schedule. You need to create a proactive schedule. A proactive schedule is where you block off time for the things that are not already forced upon you by the outside world and by the day. You're going to go pick up your kids, regardless of whether it's on the piece of paper or not. Granted, you might forget if it's not on the piece of paper, and we've all been there before. Believe me, we have. But that's not necessarily planning proactively. If you plan proactively, in between those appointments those things you know you have to do, you're blocking in time to do certain tasks. That is proactively planning. And that is probably the biggest key on a day-to-day basis for actually having a productive and efficient day and how to plan your days and your weeks for growth. So be sure that you are always planning proactively, not just reactively. And for me, particularly being a property manager, I look at planning reactively as also including things that I would do for my clients. I categorize that as reactive. So if you're a person who has clients that need you to do things, don't consider that part of your proactive planning. Bulk that into your reactive planning. You still need to create proactive planning that furthers your goals and gets you closer to where you want to be and has nothing to do what other people want of you. So definitely make sure you're putting in proactive planning and not just reactive planning. Okay, I don't often pause the podcast when I'm recording it. Like I try to make this as natural as possible. But I've been recording the first 10 minutes of this with the intro. And I'm like, why am I hearing water running? Like, I shouldn't be hearing that. I go all the way over the other end of the house and my husband left for work without making sure that the toilet handle didn't stick. So here's proof that even in a home that is owned by a rental investor and a guy who does maintenance, stuff doesn't necessarily get fixed because it's been that way. We diagnosed the problem 3 weeks ago or so, maybe even more, and it still hasn't been fixed. You know what? It's life. But anyway, getting back to our productivity episode. So now we've gone over how to plan proactively. We've talked about the best and highest use of your time. The next thing I want you guys to do is identify your most productive hours. And before you do that, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, everyone says I should get up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. Mark Wahlberg gets up at 2:30 a.m. That works great for them. Mark Wahlberg can get up at 2:30 in the morning because that's what works for him. I tried for a whole one day. Well, shouldn't even say it one day. I tried once to get up and do Mark Wahlberg's schedule because that was kind of like a trendy thing to do at one point. I didn't survive past 4:30 or so. I was already back in bed. And I even went to bed at 8 or 8:30 because his bedtime is, I think, 8. So I was even in bed early and I still could not do the 2:30 wake up thing. And I know oh, you didn't get yourself acclimated to it, blah, blah. But here's the thing, I know I'm not a night owl. I'm not. And I don't even think that's necessarily a night owl thing. I don't think Mark Wahlberg necessarily is a night owl. But I'm usually tired definitely by 9. So the idea of getting up at 2:30, just no. It doesn't work for me. It's not how my body functions. And that's totally fine. So don't adjust your productivity time because of what other people think you need to do or because of what works for them. If getting up at 2:30 in the morning, like Mark Wahlberg does right after the bars close, doesn't work for you, then don't do it. If 5 a.m. doesn't work for you, I think Gary Vaynerchuk talks about 5 a.m., that's fine. Don't force yourself to fit into somebody else's mold. Because what you should be doing is maximizing the time that you are most productive. For me, I have figured out that I am most mentally productive usually between 7 and 11 a.m. That time frame is usually my golden time. My brain is firing. I feel motivated usually. That is my prime time. So for that reason, I do my projects, my big win things between 7 and 11 a.m. Now, if you're someone who has their productivity time best at night, my brother is actually one of these people. We discovered this back when he was in high school, that getting him on a normal schedule for a high school student was incredibly hard because he did his best work and he was most productive and creative after 9 p.m. So don't necessarily feel like you have to bend to somebody else's conformity or what everyone else says works for them. Figure out what works for you, because otherwise, if you're forcing yourself to get up at 5 a.m., you're just going to drag through those first 2 or 3 hours and you're going to be like, why am I getting up this early? Because I'm not actually getting that much done. So instead, figure out what your product time is. And here's the key. Don't waste that time doing stupid shit. If your product time is, let's say, 7 to 10 p.m., don't waste it doing Netflix. Don't waste it doing whatever else. I don't know, whatever other hobbies you might have. Whatever your product time is, clue in on that and use that to the max potential, no matter when it is. Now, of course, if it turns out your prime time is like between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and you have a 9-to-5 job, might not be as easy for you to do that. But what you could do instead is maximize that 1 hour that you have for lunch and make sure that is during your prime time. But don't ever try and conform your most productive time to what other people's expectations are or what works for them. The next thing about productivity is to make sure that in the morning, and whatever your morning is, again, going back to this idea of your prime time, whatever your morning is, whether it's 5 a.m., 7 a.m., or hell, let's be honest, noon for some of you, don't be reactive in the morning. Just because the entire world has been up for, let's say, 5 hours by then, doesn't mean that you should jump into your email first or social media or whatever else because the entire world has been up for longer than you, or most of the world's been up for longer than you. Doesn't matter. Still spend your first couple hours and your prime time doing what you should be doing to get yourself forward. I always think, regardless of whether it's your prime time or not, your first 2 hours that you're awake should be spent on doing the stuff that you want to do for yourself, either professionally or personally. And these obviously should be things that are making you feel fulfilled or moving you forward towards a goal. So regardless of what your morning is, when it is, make sure your first few hours of the morning are based on what you want or need to do. Don't jump into what the world is requesting of you or needing of you right away when you get up. One of the best things I've ever done was implement a block schedule. Especially, I think, being an entrepreneur, because otherwise my time would be incredibly unstructured because nobody is telling me to be somewhere at a certain time for the most part. So block scheduling was an absolute game changer for me. Now, there's different ways of doing block scheduling, and I think I have sort of a hybrid version of it. I feel like it's a little hard to describe, but I'm going to do my best possible description here. So doing a block schedule for me means I'm setting aside a block of time, usually at least 25 minutes, but no more than 90 minutes, where I'm setting a category of tasks to do. See, for my block scheduling, I create categories. Off the top of my head, I have Finder, Keeper, Doer, Brio administration, investment administration, realtor administration, and I think I have 3 other categories. Within these categories, I have routine tasks that I do. So for instance, under the Brio administration, I have bank recs, bookkeeping, cleaning out my email, cleaning out my download folder on my file, doing filing. These are all the things that I do routinely to keep me productive. But I'll be honest, the biggest reason I try to stick to this the most is I want to actually have one tax season where I am not incredibly behind the gun, where I am doing 6 months of bank recs and bookkeeping under the deadline. Like, that is my goal. That's my number one goal for 2023, is to actually be ready to fully go at least 3 weeks before the first deadline for taxes. Now, I say the first deadline for taxes because honestly, I don't think I've filed on time for the last 7 years. I've always done an extension. But my goal is to be ready 3 weeks before tax season next year. This mainly comes from the fact that I have literally done over 7 months of bookkeeping in the last week for 2 bank accounts to get myself to the point of filing taxes under the gun for the extension. But this is why block scheduling is so important for me. Having my block schedule in place and having that time allocated to do that administration is going to help me ensure that it actually gets done. And I stick very truly to my schedule as much as I possibly can. Now, I don't have my entire day blocked out. My afternoons are usually open because that's when I'll fit in showings, conversations with clients, I'll fit in errands, miscellaneous appointments that I have. But really in the morning, I try and stick as hard and true to my block schedule as I can to ensure I am getting done what I need to get done and want to get done. And again, not just being reactive to the world. So definitely consider creating a block schedule for you where you block off time. You have categories that are assigned to each block, a category assigned to each block. And then each category has these routine tasks that you do every time that block comes up. Now, those are some really great productivity tips, but yet there's probably some of you that are like, okay, well, I know all this stuff. I was still hoping to get something new out of this. This is where I think we're going to get some new stuff out of this. I'm going to talk about some really amazing things that I've recently discovered that have honestly changed the way I operate day to day. Number 1, send more videos. Now, I'm not just talking about cat videos or, cool videos of what you did with your kids over the weekend. I'm talking about sending videos to your clients, your contacts, rather than replying to email in the written form. Crazy thing. I recently saw on YouTube, and I wish I could find the video again, but I can't. A guy did a time comparison between shooting a video reply and sending it via Messenger or through email and typing out that email word for word for what he wanted to say. It took him half as long to do the video as it did to type out the email. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. And I was like, wait, what? Seriously? So then I tried it myself. I did a couple fake runs and I couldn't believe it. It's exactly true. An email that would take you 10 minutes to type takes you about 5 minutes to record and send. It's crazy. And I think it all comes back to the mechanics of writing stuff out and going back and fixing your corrections, your grammar, those sorts of things, versus when you do a video, other than what comes out of your mouth, it's like, well, okay, there's the message. They know what I want to say, and boom, it's gone. But the other amazing thing about video is that it cuts down on the replies back and forth simply because people don't try to read in between the lines. Your face is there in the video. Your voice inflection is there in the video. So they know the emotions that you're feeling or what you're trying to get across. They're not necessarily projecting emotions or feelings into the text that is in front of them because they don't have anything in front of them other than the words. So I think that's a really big thing. I've started to do this in Messenger, and there's an app actually called Dubb, D-U-B-B, dubb.com as well, that's going to help me send these through email. So now, if I'm in a situation where I have to send a lengthy email to a client, like let's say I want to update him on a rehab that I'm managing and I've got a lot to talk about, instead of typing out the email, I'm honestly going to just record a video on my phone, use Dubb to send it, and the owner is going to be able to see my face. They're going to hear my voice. It's going to make a better connection between the two of us. And it's going to probably help me get across my point better. So I highly recommend that you start incorporating video for your long email responses. But it's even great if you're someone who has clients contacting you as introductory. What better way to introduce yourself to them than to have it be a quick 1 or 2 minute video that you send to them? Because they've seen your face, they've heard your voice, you're already beginning to make that connection. So I highly recommend that you get on the video train and use a program like Dubb to send videos via email. Now, another great thing that I recently discovered was a program called BEE. What it does is an edible template for Gmail. It allows you to create a custom platform that your emails will be sent on. What I mean by that, it's not necessarily a custom platform in the sense of like it changes it from @Gmail. It allows you to customize your email so that they come across as being presented on stationery. So you create a background, you create a design on your template, and then all of your emails will be sent out using that template. Now you're probably like, wait a minute, how is this a productivity hack? Indirectly, it's a productivity hack because here's the thing. Your email is going to stand out. It's not going to blend in with 50 other emails that they get during a day. They're going to remember the email and the person that sent them an email, which had a black background with a gold Art Deco border around the edges. You're going to stick out in their mind. They're going to remember that. So indirectly, it's a productivity tip because it's helping you stay in the front of their mind no matter who they are. Another great thing to consider using if you are a Gmail person is G Suite. G Suite is just an amazing program for any entrepreneur. It offers so many things. I could almost do an entire episode on it within itself. What it basically is it's Microsoft Office on steroids with Google. And I say on steroids because it offers much more than Microsoft Office could ever offer anyone, even the best pro version of it. So I would recommend you check that out. The other thing I recommend you check out is something called Power Automate. Power Automate is something I am really intrigued by, and I'm trying to figure out a way to incorporate it into my day-to-day life. Best way to describe it is a service through Microsoft where if you do A, it triggers the program to automatically do B and C. Here's an example. You link your YouTube account to this Power Automate program. When you upload a YouTube video, it triggers a process within Power Automate where it automatically posts it to your social media, so your LinkedIn. And then it also automatically sends out an email to people that you have on an email list. That's an example of what Power Automate can do. Now, it might not be extremely applicable to you if you're not a YouTube creator, but there are thousands and thousands of apps that can be used within Power Automate to automate functions. And all what you have to do is go about and doing the normal process, and Power Automate will take care of the rest, because it's hooked up to all your different apps. It'll be like, oh, okay, I see that Karina has sent out this email and it has an attachment. I'm going to automatically go ahead and back up that attachment to her OneDrive for her or her Google Drive, because that's what I'm programmed to do. That is the amazing thing in this program, is once you truly figure out how to harness it, it's going to take away a lot of the mundane things that you probably have to do on a day-to-day basis, or you sort of put off for a while because, well, let's be honest, they're the mundane things to do. So I really, really highly recommend that you start using something like Power Automate. It's going to be a huge game changer for you. You know what, guys, this episode's already at 22 minutes. I like to keep these episodes less than 30 minutes, so I'm going to call it on this one. If I feel I've got enough work for a second productivity episode, I'm going to go ahead and record it. But for now, we're going to call this one done. I'm pretty sure there's going to be enough for another episode, so I'll be sure and do part 2 of this for following week's episode. I hope you guys have a great week. It's been really busy over here. I've been at back-to-back real estate conferences. It was recently my birthday. That all happened within like a 10-day period. So I've just been going crazy, but I've been really enjoying it, and it's great to get out there and going to conventions and conferences again and just networking with people. But I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys on the flip side.